everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. It is that time of month again. It is time to talk about the books that I read for the previous month. So we are here to talk about the books that I read in January. I actually did not have a big reading month. I only ended up reading 7 books for this month, which is a-okay with me. As you know, I took a little bit of a break from creating content and even social media over the holidays, and honestly that rolled over into reading as well. I always had something that I was reading, but it wasn't a big turnover like it typically is for me. I did a little bit of TV binge watching, which again is fine. It got me in the mood to read. I think it's great. It was like a palate cleanser, so we will talk about the books that I read. But before we dive in, I do want to preface this video by saying I don't think that I should have to say this, but I am going to. We are not always going to have the same opinions on a book. I may love a book that you hate and vice versa, but truly that is one of the things that I absolutely love about this community is our differing opinions. I really enjoy seeing what made a book tick for somebody that I just maybe couldn't get into. In fact, there is a pretty famous booktuber that I follow who predominantly doesn't like the books that I read. She will actually really slam a lot of my 4 and 5 star books, and I find it quite humorous, and I still follow her. Whereas there are a few booktubers that we have very similar tastes, and whenever I go on a book recommendation from them and I end up not liking the book, it is always like a like I wonder where the wires crossed on that. This is my rambly way of saying that there may be books on this list or in future lists or in past lists that we don't jive on, and that is completely okay. These are only my opinions, guys. Like, seriously, just my opinions. It's for fun, so please don't take anything that I say personally. I just may not jive that way. With that being said, let's jump into the 7 books that I read for January. Okay, so the first book that I read for the month was Slip of the Tongue by Jessa Hawkins. This is told in the point of view of one of our main characters, Sadie. It follows her and her husband. For tropes and a big trigger warning for anybody, this is centered around cheating. So if you don't like cheating, maybe not this book. I'm not somebody who's going to necessarily shy away from it. It's not one of my favorite things to read about. Sometimes it's done pretty well. Sometimes you kind of don't even realize it's what's going on, but this is very prominent and centered around it. But we do follow Sadie and her husband. I have read and loved the Something in the Way series by Jessa Hawkins, but this book was not for me. I did not like our main character, Sadie. I did not like being in her head. I felt that she was very self-absorbed and very self-centered and very like, I want instant gratification and I want it now. She seemingly has this amazing, doting husband, Nathan, who just worships the ground she walks on. She is on a pedestal, and when we start the book, 2 months prior, he basically stopped being typical Nathan, and she is a little butthurt about that. So when a hunky neighbor moves in across the way, it only takes about a week or 2 before she is shattering her marital vows and shacking up with this guy. Obviously, there's a lot of shit that goes on in this book, but I just didn't care. I felt that it was absolutely ridiculous. I wanted to DNF this book so many times. Me personally, I have a very hard time DNFing books. I gotta know. Like, it's gonna irk me. I gotta know. However, for this, there was like seemingly like this big secret of why these events started to happen, and I wanted to know what that was. Like, what was so big that you would ruin years, almost a decade of marriage for this after 2 months? Like, you were happy and in love 2 months ago, and all of a sudden you're not getting attention, so bye. So let me go find somebody who is. I was like, no, honey, that doesn't compute with me. I'm sorry. No. And then I just felt like there was no consequences and no real ending for me with this one. However, there are 2 other books, I believe, in this series. They are interconnected books that center around characters that you meet in this first book. I will not be continuing with those. I'm good. I ended up giving this a 2 stars, and I gave it a 2 stars for spice. The next book that I read for the month is Addicted for Now by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the 3rd installment of the Addicted Cowboy series. We are still with Lily and Lo in this one. Lo is back from rehab, and you do get a dual POV with this one, and honestly, it saved the book a little bit for me because we do get Lo's point of view. Guys, I have to be honest here. I'm not liking the Addicted series. I'm really trying to give it a go. I think in the way that you're supposed to read it, that the next book is one of the Calloway sisters books. I think it is a Daisy and Reich story, which I am excited because I do kind of want to get away from Lily. I mean, Lily at this point is a no-go for me. Again, do not connect with her. I find her extremely annoying. Honestly, she just pisses me off. I feel like Lo is doing something. Like he realizes I have an addiction and this is the path that I'm going down. I could possibly be just like my father, who at times I hate even though I love, and I don't want to be like that. I want to be somebody different. I want to do something different with my life, and this is what I need to do. It's a very slippery slope, and I'm going to better myself because I love this girl, and these are the things that I want to do. Lily is not like that. It's all about sex for her, and I get it. It's an addiction, but I don't know. Her and I are just, we are absolutely butting heads at this point, but I'm really trying. Everybody says that this is an amazing series. It's like their top series. It's their favorite series. They talk about it all the time. It's everywhere. I haven't gotten there yet. I don't see it. I don't see the appeal. So I'm hoping that getting a little bit of Daisy, getting maybe a little bit of Rose, and then going back into Lily and Lo might help. I am going to go against my better judgment here, and I am going to continue. I feel like there has to be some silver lining, but at this point, it's just, I'm struggling, y'all. I'm really struggling. I'm going to keep going, but I'm struggling. I ended up giving Addicted for now a 3, and I gave it a 2 stars for spice. The next book that I read was Be Still My Heart by Emily McIntire and Sav Miller. This is a dual POV. It is a small town romance, a friends to lovers, forced proximity, so you got some good stuff here. I was really interested in reading this one because not only I had my romance, but went back to my roots with this one with a thriller as well. So this follows Lincoln and Sloan. Sloan is a badass female character for sure. She is a cop who is sent over to this small coastal island community because of a murder, and the small town police just don't have the capacity and the manpower to solve this. Now, immediately she has a bit of a chip on her shoulder when it comes to Lincoln. It reminded me of like this big city cop coming to a small town, and she's a female, so she kind of has to like prove her worth right out the gate. But the tension between them was like, it was on another level. It was lit. Because of this, the banter and the chemistry between them was heated for sure, in a good way, like spicy heated. Because you don't immediately dislike somebody the way that they did if there's not some surefire chemistry there. And let me tell you, it was there, and it went boom. Again, in a good way. Lincoln, though, I think was my favorite character in this book. Even though I love a badass female character, Lincoln for me he was just a vibe. Like, I just really liked him. He was cool, off the cuff. Sloan would come after him, and he just was kind of like, do you, boo? Do you? He was a vibe. I loved him. I really enjoyed having a thriller with true romance in it and even a little bit of spice. But I did find myself more invested in the crime and the suspense and the whodunit of the story. The spicy scenes were absolutely a true bonus because typically with a thriller, or most of the thrillers that I read, more often than not, those scenes are typically fade to black. So this was an added bonus, and I was here for it. I really liked it. So overall, the big twist and the mystery was not too difficult to figure out, but I did ultimately really enjoy being back in a thriller. I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars, and I gave it a 3 stars for spice. The next book I read was Give In by Layla Frost. This is another dual POV, and for tropes you have an age gap. It is a teacher-student romance. It is extreme alpha male, slow burn, BDSM. You got it all. This follows Damien and Eden. He is a 34-year-old political theory professor at a Boston college, and she is a 22-year-old student who is struggling to keep up with her classes and make enough money to pay her bills and survive because she is estranged from her parents. So she ends up dancing at a strip club called Sinners, which is like 1 or 2 towns over, so that she doesn't get noticed by people at school. But when Damien comes in for a bachelor party for one of his friends, who does he see but Eden? And he is absolutely floored by this because from the moment that Eden walked into his classroom, he's been intrigued, and then when she spoke, he was completely obsessed with her. She finds him obviously attractive, but he kind of intrigues her, yes, but kind of scares her a little bit too because he's very intense, and she absolutely thinks that he hates her when, I mean, things could be furthest from the truth. Now, I said it was a slow burn in the beginning, and when I say that, it is a slow burn, like super slow. This is actually one of like the ultimate slow burns that I've read, but it is a good slow burn. Like you're like, come on, something happened, but you also really want that slow burn because it was just good. It was good. And also, I will say, as far as like the BDSM sub dom alpha male goes, I have read multiple of these as well. Take Lessons in Sin, Dark Notes, and I will tell you that Damien is more alpha male. Like I felt like with other books that have kind of scenario, our hero tends to relinquish maybe or to soften just a little bit at some point in the book, where Damien was extreme alpha male. He did not want to relinquish anything. Like there was no give with him. But he and Eden worked so well together that it did work. I really did enjoy this book. I ended up giving it a 3.5 as well, and I gave it a 3 stars for spice. Then I read Undeniable. This is by Madeline Sheehan. It is another dual POV. For your tropes, you have pretty hefty age gap. It's an MC group. There's extreme violence, sexual abuse, you name it, it's there. This follows Eva and Deuce, and Eva and Deuce meet when Eva is visiting her father in prison when she is like 5 to 7. I can't remember. And Deuce is visiting his father in prison. Now, there is about an 18-year age gap between these two, but they do have some sort of connection in prison, and it's not like that. It's just, here's this little Spitfire girl that Deuce is like, she knows a little bit more for her age and is just hilarious. I find her intriguing, and that's it. This book goes through many different stages in both of their lives where they'll meet and then they don't see each other for years. So they met and then they don't see each other for like a decade. And then they don't see each other for like 5 or 6 years. So it spans a lot of time. I will also say, as a little bit of a disclaimer, that on the actual blurb of this story and the subsequent stories that follow, because this again is another interconnected series, is that it specifically says these are not fairy tales. These are not happily ever afters. These are dark. You're not going to get your sunshine and roses. And I've seen that before on books, yes, but this is more accurate. In the beginning, like when I first started reading this book, it was very intriguing. I really actually thought that I was going to enjoy this, but I did not. Ultimately, it just was too much for me. One of my favorite words in life is fuck. However, I do not need it in every other word. And I don't need to read it every other word to get a point across. I get it, you know? I like my big bad boy tatted up motorcycle men who are, toucher in you kind of men, alpha males, but they have that sweet spot for their women. This was not that. These men don't treat women very well. They degrade them. Half the time they're not even calling them by a name. It's just bitch. It was just too much for me. It was ultimately just degrading to women. It was disgusting behavior on the men's behalf, and I almost felt at times that that's what the author was trying to do, was let me see how crass I can get. Let me push those boundaries just enough, but ultimately, like, that's what turned me off. Was I do actually like my bad boy to be a little good. I just ultimately, obviously, did not like it. I ended up giving it a 2 stars, and I gave it a 4 stars for spice because of content and trigger warnings and such. Okay. Remember in the beginning how I said we may not like the same things. We may have differing opinions. Well, guys, my next book was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. Oh boy. What can I say about Magnolia Parks? Well, I'll tell you that it is a dual POV. It is friends to lovers. It's got a little bit of fake dating in it. It follows our main character, Magnolia Parks, and her on again, off again, maybe you think so boyfriend, BJ, or whatever his real name is. I don't know. I can see why people say that this is very much like Gossip Girl, but set in London. But right off the cuff, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, this is not the book for me. It is not the series for me. I'm done. I finished the book. I did it. There was a thing that I pegged early on in the book, and I needed to be vindicated to know that I was correct. I was. If you've read it, you know the twist. But here's the thing. The writing. I did not click with that. I also did not click, vibe, or connect with any one of these characters at all. I found Magnolia to be utterly ridiculous. She was self-obsessed and self-absorbed and self-centered, and this toxic relationship between her and BJ of are they or aren't they, and what they're doing behind closed doors, and how they can one-up each other, him having sex with all these girls and telling her about it, her serial dating, and but really ultimately going back to BJ because both of them say that's the love of their life, but your actions speak louder than words, and that is not what you're saying. In my books, I do love drama. I do like toxicity. It's fun to read about. This was something else. If there's drama, if there's toxicity, I need to be able to connect with the character, and I need to be on their team, right? Like, I need to root for you. I get why you're doing this, and yes or no, I love you so much, I want to smack you. You can't do this. Like, it took me forever to get through this book because I just would get like through a chapter and then I'd have to put it down. And then so I can stop beating a burning bush at this point, I do have to mention the clothes. Like, very distracting to be in a story and then we have to stop because Magnolia has to tell you what somebody is wearing from head to toe. I mean, I get why it was there, but like I don't get why it was there. And I really tried. I got through the book. I'm so proud of myself. I got through the book, but I don't care what happens. If you loved it, I'm so happy for you. But I just can't root for Magnolia and or BJ. I can't root for anybody. You're too involved with yourself. You need to be out into the world, not self-involved. But I am so sorry. I will not be continuing. I ended up giving this a 2 stars. There is no spice. The end. The last book that I read for the month is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. This was another thriller. Yay for me. It is told in third person. I know. For me, that automatically drops you down half a point. I want to be in the mind of somebody. Like I said, mystery, suspense, thriller. I really will not be talking too much about this book because this book will be in a future video that I am working on. So my thoughts and all that jazz will be in that video. This is, like I said, a murder mystery. It goes back and forth from past tense to present tense. In the present tense, we are with our main character, Margot, who has come back to her small town where she grew up from to take care of her uncle, who has early onset dementia and is really just not doing well. And then there is a murder that occurs. Margot is a journalist, and this murder strikes her as very similar because 25 years-ish prior, her best friend was murdered in a very similar way, and it never really left Margot. And being the journalist that she is, she wants to solve this mystery. She wants to bring justice to not only the friend that she lost, but the girl that was murdered and the families of these girls as well. So that is where the book starts. And we are with Margot, who is determined to put this entire case to bed and find out once and for all who really done it. And that is where I'm going to leave you. That's all I'm going to tell you. I ended up giving this a 3.75 stars. No spice. So that is it. Those are the 7 books that I read for January. I didn't have a top 5 because clearly I didn't have such a stellar reading month. I'm hoping beyond all hope that my luck is changing and February will be aces, but my top books for January are Be Still My Heart, Give In, and All Good People Here. My most surprising read is honestly a toss-up between either Give In or Be Still My Heart. My biggest letdown for the month is Magnolia Parks because it was truly hyped up and it fell real hard for me, and I'm so sorry, but it did. But anyway, that's going to do it for my wrap-up of January. I'm very curious to see what you read in January. Let me know down in the description box below. As you can see, I did not have any 5 stars this month. I didn't even have any 4 stars. So let's hope for better things in February for me. Please. I need it. I need a good book. Okay? Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already so you can see more content from me. And as always, happy reading. Bye.